Hello everyone, MDio here. Welcome to the middle of nowhere. I appear to be on top of a tree. My spawn point is right there. There's some trees in the distance and more trees and there's a bigger tree. I wanted to do something a bit different today. I wanted to just bring up a world with nothing in it, and I wanted to walk through what the player would do if they happened to start in a new world. This world is interesting to me because there's not a lot around here. We have a few ruins, we have probably another ruin over there. There's a battle tower over there, and then there's this. This is a giant dungeon from Better Dungeons out in the middle of nowhere. There's just nothing around here except this giant structure of giant stone bricks. So let's see. Oh, what would I do if I was here? I would probably look at this. I'd look around first. I'd go up, and then I'd probably poke my head inside because this probably has resources that I can't get otherwise. And we're not on peaceful, so we have things spawning in here. I'd probably look in here. I'd see the cauldrons. I can't mine them yet. Poke in here for food. That thing might be firing at me. In fact, let's get out of creative mode. Yeah, I come over here. He sees me now. Maybe. Go look over here. So at this point... Oh, nope. At this point, I would have poked my head in, decided that it was no good for anything that I wanted to do, and then started running away. After that... I might have been attacked on the way here, too. That's lovely. Okay, so after this point, I would go find a safe spot, and I guess I'd start mining. I'd go grab a couple trees, grab some sheep, maybe some food. So at this point, I'd start up, and I'd make something like this. I know this ruin is safe. It has a whole bunch of wood here, and while there is some lava there, it's not going to go anywhere. I did manage to punch a few sheep, and I would sleep the night away. Be something down below trying to kill me, but that's okay. We won't worry about the mobs down there. In fact, there's a sheep right there, and what the heck is that? Yeah, I'd be cowering in fear from the monsters. What I'm doing right now is I'm trying to map out progression of what the player does when they first start a world, or when they first start a map, or really, whenever you start the game, you gotta do stuff. And if you're starting on a random world, the first thing you would do is probably go punch wood, go gather materials, supplies, you'd probably have a few tools. You wouldn't have this kind of stuff, it'd be out there. And from here you'd really have a choice. You could go mining. You could start digging underground, start digging in mine shaft. You probably want to go looking for food first. So let's go looking for food. Where would we find food around here? Probably punch a bunch of these. Start getting a farm going. You could also look for wild animals. Look for berries. Like chickens. Kill the chicken. And if we're lucky, we'll find a village. We'll find a whole place with lots and lots and lots of food. If we're not lucky, we'll just find a village structure out in the middle of nowhere from the ruins. And there'll just be some books in here. Yep. So, priority number 1 seems to be shelter and tools. Priority number 2 would be food. Or would those be at the same time? You can kind of do both, actually. And if you're feeling really rushed, you could go make tools. So priority number 1, tools. Priority number 2 is to go hunt things. Or to go get food in some fashion. Probably to hunt chickens and cows and all kinds of fairies and evil creatures across the land. You evil chicken. You evil chicken. And then after that, you probably start mining. Or you just go exploring. depends on the way you want to do it. And this particular thing looks like nothing. In a world full of dungeons, you probably go poke your head in a few of those, like over there, over there. In a world without dungeons, your best choice would be to go underground. Way underground. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. There's no cave down here. Let's see if we can find a cave. Here's a cave. Biggest cave I've ever seen. So you're wandering around. You go look around for random things, somewhere to settle. You come across a cave. You check out the cave. You look out for monsters. You jump inside. And we see no monsters over here. This may be a bit much, but you've got a bunch of torches. There's some monsters in here. You go deeper and deeper looking for early game resources or anything you can get out of ground. We have some of this, earth-infused stone. We have a bunch of resources from mods down here. We have ores, and we have probably just a bunch of stone. So if we go deeper and deeper, this is your first mining trip. And if you're feeling particularly dwarfy, you might have carried in a bunch of resources. Say, a bunch of wood and a bunch of basically just wood and saplings. Maybe food. Chickens? Eggs. Definitely eggs. As many eggs as you can get, because the chickens are your best source of arrows down here. And you'll be looking around for iron, looking for coal. Probably iron to begin with. Berry bushes aren't bad. Oh. Yeah. You find something like this. There's a big area here. Light it all up. And this is going to be your new home. This is one of your options anyway. The other option would be to find this, make a temporary base, or maybe just ignore it. And then, once you're done, you take all your resources and you go find somewhere better to settle. Hey. Thanks, skeleton. Man, you don't even like me in creative mode, do you? With Grimoire of Gaia, there's harder mobs down here, so maybe you won't go down very far. Or maybe... Ooh. What's that? You find new resources from mobs. There's a lava lake down here. So, this is the place you want to live. You want to set up here, you've moved on from wood, and now you're in stone time. You definitely have stone tools, you have stone everything. At this point, you can make anything out of wood, and anything out of stone. And you can start thinking about getting into other mods, or start setting up building projects for the beginning of your world. Like maybe the spawn area, or like transport, get some rails going, maybe have a tower up to the sky so you know where your spawn point is. Something to identify the beginning of your world. And since you're living underground, this can really be done above ground too, but since this is underground, let's grab a hoe, and let's set up a farm. Why underground? I don't know. It's the nice thing about role-playing. Sometimes you just do. So you've brought a bunch of seeds with you, and these will actually grow. There we go. Oh, no. You've also made mistakes along the way. You brought too many things and not enough of one. You have too many eggs and not enough wheat. You have a few good resources. So you got a chest. Your home's right here. Here's your base. You live right here. So at this point, you start looking for mods to play with, or you start trying to progress some more. So, you were serious about staying underground, or maybe you've been forced there, like the scun burns you. The scun? The scun! There's no sun anymore, it's a scun, and anytime you walk outside, it goes, scun, na 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 na, and you jump in lava, and you die. So you don't go outside. Instead, you've been underground, you've got a few trees, you've got some places to farm them, you've been decorating the place, you still got your food. you got into a mod or two. Whoopsie. Uh, um, Here, let's fix that. Oopsie. Okay, so you've gotten into a mod. Say you got into Tinkers because that's the early game mod. You want to get really started. And you got into Blood Magic too, because Blood Magic is just nice. And you maybe got into Thaumcraft because there's Thaumcraft things everywhere, but you can't really show that. You've also gotten lots of resources, and you want to go outside now. You want to start building. You want to do something different. So at this point, this is probably the end of the early game. At this point, we start moving into probably Phase 2. And Phase 2 is what people will call mid-game, but there isn't really a late game in Minecraft because it keeps going forever and ever and ever. Late game would probably be different for each person. Say, late game for me in a world would be after I'd been there for a month. Late game for some other people might be a year, and on custom maps it could just be towards the end of the map, which could take an hour. It could take years as well. All depends on how you do it. So, maybe we've just decided that we're gonna set up shop here forever. The scun is gonna kill us. So what we do now is we start getting into different mods. If we go in over here, can't get into that. We have Thaumcraft. You could get deep into there. We found a dimensional door. And we've decided that this is going to be what we're going to do. We're going to go from dimension to dimension looking for dungeons. And we're going to build inside here with the Thaumcraft thing. Give me something from Thaumcraft. Flux gas? Flux goo? Yeah, I don't know what this is. We want to taint the place. Yeah. Why taint? I don't know. What I do know is that the entire dimension is going to look like taint. Actually, I think that's enough. It's a nice squishy sound. Anywho. So what you would start doing now is you'd start going from mod to mod to mod. And you'd basically just do a little bit from them. Or... I don't think it's supposed to do that. Or you can stick with one mod and you can start going all the way through. Or you might actually get through a few smaller ones. Like Growthcraft, you might have gotten all the plants you need by now, and you've already baked a bunch of bread and gotten a bunch of beer, and it only took you like a couple hours, 3, less, who knows. A lot of these mods are made for long-term experiences. And if they're not, there's multiple mods you can use. So let's get out of here, go back to the surface. You're back outside, the scun is rising. You're wearing a protective suit of some sort so that it doesn't harm you, doesn't bother you. And you decide you want to go explore the original castle that you were at. Now, you couldn't go in here before because you were way too weak. But now you have protective gear and you have... What can we grab out of here? Let's grab something worth using. No. Just give me a cleaver. Big old manual cleaver. Plus 14 attack damage. Whackety whack. Okay, so you go through the entire dungeon. You kill everything there. You take all its loot. And it looks like there's a ton of loot in here. And you go all the way to the top. You fight the boss. You defeat the dungeon. And you win the whole place. This goes pretty high. Is a boss in here? I don't think this is a boss type dungeon. I think this one is just a large area. Let's say that there's something worth coming to get in here. Let's say the entire purpose that you've been in here is for... Maybe you wanted diamonds. Maybe that's the whole point of you getting in here. And up on the top, there is that many diamonds. I'm sure anybody would freak out if there was that many diamonds in here. But wait, there's more. Of course, the diamonds are trapped. There's a spawner inside, and nothing's gonna keep you from getting in there. Turn on the light. And, I wonder. Spawn Ender Dragon Girl. Now there's no Ender Dragon in here. Well, it's guarded. So, you ended up killing all of the Ender Dragons that were here. And you took the emeralds, the diamonds, whatever it is, and you went back to your base. Where'd you go? So we're back at the base. If the second phase was to sit underground and mine resources, then the third phase was to go conquer the dungeon or build some kind of large project like the dungeon, or do whatever you need to do. And by this point, you've got a whole bunch of diamonds. You're moving from phase 3 into phase 4, and this is usually what people call endgame. At this point, you can probably do anything you want. You have access to as many materials as you need. You've beaten the dragon, you've conquered all the dungeons, and then you just beat the game. But it's a sandbox, you can't really beat the game. In fact, now you have to build bigger and better and gianter things, because you just have to do that. Because that's the way it's got to be played. You can't play it any other way, you always have to build bigger things. Or something like that. Or you can start over. At this point, you could go out and go over here. Like, I want to start over. Let's toss out everything. Diamond big sword. I got that out of the dungeon. And maybe you don't start over entirely. Maybe you bring a few iron supplies with you, bring some armor, what have you. And then we can go back into the mine again, and we'll start over there. And, wow, I got mining fatigue. Cleaver, you forgot to help me. Get rid of that. And there we go. Let's not do that. Okay, so at this point, at this point, it's really do whatever you want. At this point, you are in control of the world. It's your world, and you may as well wreck it, or blow it up, or create the entire world out of nothing. If you're playing a Skyblock world, you don't have anything. And towards the end of a Skyblock world, you have every farm. You have, like, all of this. This would be your world. Look at that. You built one of those, and who knows what it's for. But it's just there. It's actually kind of cool looking. I bet that's a ruin. Ruins always have nice tree structures with fortifications and turrets. Maybe at this point you start making mini-games, because you're on a server with multiple people. Regardless, this part goes really fast if you're playing the base game, and if you're playing with mods, it takes longer, but the power level that you get to is much higher. Sometimes, it really depends on the kind of mods that you pick. And if you're playing on a map, then that's really however long it takes you to get to the end of the map is however long it takes you to get to this point, where I have the cleaver and all of the powers, and I rule the world. I set up a little area here so I could collect my thoughts from today, to try and put them all in the one spot, something I could look at. So, when you're on the beginning of the map, you have nothing. You have a lot of grass and plants and trees, and you don't really have anything to start with. You're naked. You have a lot of dirt. You really can start with nothing but dirt. And that's right under you. After that, you probably go get some wood. You're not going to spend too much time in this phase. This is the very early game. This is probably World Gen, and this is when the player actually starts doing things. Let's go grab some wood. We go underground, we start getting materials, we get resources, we get supplies, we start making a house. In fact, we kind of need a house here. Let's make a house. I'm making a house out of stone. There, now we made a house. And this is our house. We have gathered materials, we have a place to call our own, and it's just something nice and small. After that, we start getting into different parts of the game. Like, you start working with piston mechanics, or you start working with early mods, or you just use all your metal to make tools and beacons. Well, not so much on the beacons, but blocks like this. This is probably the amount of time that you spend here. Like, you don't spend very much time in there. You spend a little bit more time here. And then once you get to here, you probably spend this much time. Some people are going to spend more time, and if you really want to control the way somebody does something, you start modulating these so that if you want people to spend more time in the Iron Age, where they have to do lots of things, then you can add more mechanics over here. You can just add a whole bunch of ways that they can go if they don't want to do that. And if they really want to spend their time here, then they can. But if they want to move on, then they just get whatever little post that you have, and they come over here. And at this point, you have everything unlocked, or most things. You have the ability to unlock everything. You may not have everything unlocked, but what you can do is you can make your base, you can build your platforms, and then you can go to the next one. And you do your thing here, and then you go to the next one. And after this, it's basically mod after mod after mod, or game after game after game, or part of the map, dungeons, you go exploring. At this point, a lot of it becomes the same, sort of. You've more or less beaten the game in a sandbox at this point. You can never really beat the game. When people go and they start going back to different areas to try and start over, they usually don't go back to here. They don't go back to the Wood Age. And they almost certainly never go back to here. What they'll do is they will pick another point. Like maybe they don't want to go back to here in the Stone Age where they didn't have anything worthwhile. But they didn't want to come over here because they spent a lot of time in this area. So what they do is they build a bridge. And they start right here. They start in between. And it's really interesting to see people go wander off and start new worlds. Because people who start new worlds just want everything fresh. And they'll start from over there. And they won't have the ability to go get their things from way over there. That's generally why they start new worlds. Yep, sun's going down. Let me fix that. Ignore the maid that I killed. It was getting annoying and I liked it, but it wasn't supposed to be here. So there's a purpose behind this. There's a larger thing going on. I am looking at Tinkers, and I'm looking at it from the ground up, because I want to examine all the parts of it. The design I made a year ago, maybe more. Actually, it looks like about a year and a half today. Yeah, today. Year and a half. 18 months. It looks like a lot of the time is spent here with the wood tools, and we have this. We have crafting station now. Tool station. Yeah. Tool station's here. Let's grab both of these. Tool station, this is what you get very early on. You make your basic tools here. The mod is designed to be used in this time period. And once you get your tool forge, you probably are beyond this point. Some people spend a lot of time here. A lot of people like to just go past it. And this would be like the gateway between this part and this part. Although, depending on how long you draw it out, if you really add a lot of content and a lot of things, you could put this all the way back here. Or even, probably not there. Maybe even right in the center here. If I pull out everything from Tinkers, I can kind of put them on this timeline. Like over here we have the Slime Islands, and we have World Gen. Over here is where you start getting wood, and you start getting into tools, and you have access to the punchy sticks at this point. Also, we have ham bone. Can't have enough ham bone. Ham bone. And you got the smeltery going on. You probably start getting into some advanced smeltery mechanics. Then we get into advanced tools, tool forge, etc. At this point, there isn't a whole lot to do. You could start using slam channels, get some bounce pads going, and boing. You could get some drawbridges going to do some interesting things. And at this point, you're probably going to go to the nether. I'm not sure what these do. These were added by a fan, and they're supposed to sort mobs and entities and items, and yeah. And over here, we have absolutely nothing. If we break Tinkers down, it just goes into this point right here, over to there, and then after you get to this point, you start using other mods, because there isn't a whole lot left to do. Which is okay. You're going to be using the tools the whole time. But if I really want to start making things, I think I'd like to start over here. I think I'd like to start making things over in this direction, where we can make new mechanics and new systems of play, and make new things. This is the direction I'd like to go. Eventually, I'd like to get over there, too. But there was really a hole that I saw that was right here. Is if you look at most mods, they either start here or there. You don't start here. You don't start at that, well, you don't start over here. You start over in the point where you have lots of machinery and lots of magic and lots of exploration. It's either that or you start over here at level 0. There isn't much that falls in this point, and there's not much that falls there either. Got too many hambone. Bye, hambone. This has been quite informative. I have some plans for things. Devious plans, dangerous plans. And this particular timeline is going to help me in more ways than one. I'm going to be making something, and it's going to start over there. I'm going to be looking at the entire mod, looking at all of Tinker's Construct, and I'm going to start over there, and I'm going to work my way up. And I'm going to start making things over here. Definitely over here. I need my windmills. I don't have my windmills, do I? No. So we're going to get windmills, and we're going to get mechanical over here. And I do have plans for this area, where we get into the phase 4, where you just have a whole bunch of everything, and that'll be the end. Yeah. Fix the time again. I think that about wraps this up. I like to just talk these things out sometimes, try to roleplay, try to figure out what people would do, what they would want. I want to see the path they would take, and believe me when I say there are multiple paths you can do to get anywhere you want. Heck, we don't even have to follow that. There are some things that we can do that just extend this out forever. You could go play Terra Firmacraft, and you end up in this point forever, and it's all fun, and it's all interesting. You could get a mod that starts you up right here. Darkcraft completely removes the beginning game, and you don't even have to do it. And there are mods that you can't even get into until you get way out here. Heck, by this point you might even get to the 5th tier, or the 5th age, or the 5th phase, or whatever you want to call it. And it's the age of TNT. Speaking of TNT, I think that's a fitting way to end this episode. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again next time.